creation kind of helps man, or helps create drive. So how I came up with that idea was probably not the way that you should come up with ideas in business.
That's how you build something, whether for yourself or for the world, or just because you want to do it. That's how you do it.
When you say that, some people have the idea and don't do it, I do, is because I'm trying to not be depressed, basically.
Welcome back everyone to another episode of Path in Life. Today I'm joined by Ben. Ben is a UX designer, but what you don't know about Ben yet is that Ben has got loads of ideas. I read a book called Blue Ocean Strategy once, and there's a very nice quote I still remember from it. In business, if you're not busy being born, you're busy dying. Which basically means if you don't innovate and if you don't come up with new ideas every single time, then someone else will. Therefore, you will be dying while someone else will keep being reborn. So today's episode, we will talk about idea generation, selection, validation, and execution. Ben, thank you for joining me on the podcast today. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah. I'm keen to talk about ideas. Yes, because there's so many, and then there are so many that it's almost like going to a store and being like, I want to buy some cereal. And then you go and there's all this fucking great cereal, like so much of it. And you're just like, all right, well, which cereal do I actually want? And then you get paralyzed by the amount of cereal. And ideas are kind of the same, You start talking right then about ideas and oh crap, what am I going to talk about? How are you?
Starstruck.
Yeah.
So, Ben, one thing I admire about you, obviously you and I, we work together. One thing I really admire about you is that every time I bump you into work, every other week you have something new to share, a new idea you're actively trying to pursue. And they're really exciting. And what's exciting for me is the fact that you always come up with them and they always seem something I haven't thought about and you have. It's always interesting to hear about those ideas. So do you want to talk a bit about maybe how you come up with ideas or sort of like your process? Because I think we were talking about it once and you were saying sometimes how you come up with ideas is by thinking in unconventional ways, or to some really weird situations you come up with a new idea.
Yeah. So, well, as a conversation about process, I'll tell you about one process that I used to have. I don't do it anymore, but I used to have it. So every Tuesday and Thursday I would run to the climbing wall. It's about a 2-mile run. I'd run to the climbing wall, do my climb, and then run back, which is a perfect time to listen to an audiobook, or a podcast as you're running, right? So I would listen to non-fiction books about some particular topic. One particular topic that I really enjoyed was information architecture. I had real fun listening to that book. Yeah. But what I'd like to do is roll just a little zoot beforehand, smoke that zoot, and then run listening to this book. And maybe it's the movement mixed with the weed, mixed with everything else. It would just give me the craziest ideas, like just absolutely mad ideas. And I get so excited about these ideas and be like, this is going to change the fucking world, man. And then, I'd have to stop and take out my dictaphone and record the idea kind of thing. And then, go and you climb, you come back and you read the idea and you're like, And so there's a lot of that with idea generation, for one thing. But that is a process that I did really like, because it did create a lot of like, let's go explore this idea. But in general, I'd say that what I really like to do is think in analogies. When someone's explaining a problem to me, I will try and think of something that it's like that is completely different. For example, I'm going to try and pull something out of thin air. For example, today I was talking to a friend about self-doubt and self-deprecation, right? And and the patterns in which I find my mind going into with self-doubt and self-deprecation. And the easiest way for me to, what's the word, describe those kind of patterns was through the use of my addiction to cigarettes. Two completely different things, but relatable enough that you can use one to explain the other and get some ideas from it. And so it comes up quite a lot when we're at work and we're talking about ideas. Without warning, I will just start to talk in analogies, and people are just going to have to catch up with me, because I'm just like, well, because what you're saying is that not all rabbits can climb trees. That doesn't make any sense. But and people will be like, yeah, that is what we're saying. I'm like, good. But I like to think that there is more lessons in the world than just by focusing on a particular topic. And you can learn things about, I don't know, programming, and come up with new ideas for programming by, studying biology, for example. Although I don't study either of those things very well, but it's just an example that I had in my head.
So you're saying by looking at things that might not be related to each other, so say programming and biology, you might have an idea for the other.
Yes.
It's very interesting. So walk me through the example you gave with the cigarettes and self-deprecation, was it?
Yeah.
So walk me through that.
So I just did a course, it was like a workshop thing to help me stop smoking. I did one about 2 years ago, and it helped me not smoke for about a year and a half, and then I fell into the habit again and started smoking again. So I've done it again, and I was taking a bunch of notes in the workshop, because this one was asynchronous. And then I gave all those notes to Gemini, and I was like, all right, write me a prompt, so that every time that I start to have these kind of thoughts, I have something to talk to that is aligned with the content of this workshop, right?
Which is stopping smoking.
Yeah, stop smoking. Yeah.
Yeah.
So every time I get, and then what I've kind of started to notice, because I've kind of externalized those triggers and thoughts by having this kind of prompt that I can kind of go to and talk to, I've started to be able to recognize the thought behaviors that are happening, because I'm like, oh, I'm actually going to a thing to talk about it, and I'm writing in what I'm thinking about. And what I've kind of noticed is that when I'm not thinking about having a cigarette, or when I'm not kind of triggered, like by, it's the end of the day, or I'm going outside, or I've just finished eating, or I've just woken up. And when I don't have those kind of regular smoking triggers, throughout the day, I'll just get this kind of almost subconscious, cigarettes, ooh, cigarettes, But it's not really a conscious kind of thought. It's more this kind of vague feeling of like, oh yeah, you miss a cigarette, or yeah, you'd like a cigarette, kind of thing. And so then when I get into the trigger stage, I then get like, oh, I really like a cigarette, and then it's like, well, you're not having cigarettes. You've stopped smoking cigarettes. You don't want cigarettes, right? You want to stop smoking cigarettes. You want to be free of that. But then in the back of my mind, I'm like, yes, but there's this constant thought in your head that is, romanticizing cigarettes, and you have that. And because it's that, and my realization is that constant, that kind of low hum constant of romanticizing cigarettes, almost makes it true in my head that that's what I want. I want a cigarette, because I've got this constant romantic almost feeling for a cigarette. And how that relates to self-deprecation and self-doubt is that self-deprecation and self-doubt is almost, for me, the same thing. There's this kind of low hum of well, you can't do that. You don't have the experience to do that. You don't have the wherewithal to do that. Well, whatever the self-doubt and self-deprecation thought is, but there is this kind of constant low thing. So when it does come to the surface, when I am actually trying to do something and it comes up, it almost reinforces the truth because I recognize that thought as a constant thing. If you understand what I mean.
So is it that when you were having that thought and you were thinking, I want a cigarette, was that the moment when you were thinking you're not good enough to give up?
Well, it's like when you realize that you're having like you want a cigarette and you don't want to smoke anymore, right? I'm obviously trying not to smoke. So I'm like, I think, this is when I normally have a cigarette, and I go, no, you don't want to smoke, you're stopping smoking. But then there's a question of, well, is that true? Do I not want to smoke? Because there's a constant thought in my head that I like smoking, right? So what is the truth? That constant thought or the actual thought of the thing that I'm trying to do, me trying to control the situation is, you're not going to smoke. You don't want to smoke. Like, that's what I want my behavior to be, but my mind is like, well, there's this constant thought that says the opposite.
Okay.
And it's the same for like anything that I'm trying to do. I can, for example, I'm not this bad, but like I'll look at the cup and I'll be like, oh, I want to lift up the cup, and then there'll be something in my mind like, you're not strong enough to lift up that cup. You can't do it. And then I'm like, well, I am strong enough, but in my head there may be another thought that goes, well, but you always think that you're not strong enough, so you must not be strong enough. So it's like the constant of a thought making it seem like it's true, but it's not. Anyway,
I see your point. What I'm now trying to connect in my head is, in the example you gave, you said you've got smoking workshop on one side, giving up smoking, and then on the other side you've got, I'm not good enough. Do I really want to stop smoking? What was the idea connection between two things that seemed to not be related to each other?
Oh, no. The self-deprecation is just, I was talking about self-deprecation with nothing to do with cigarettes.
Yeah.
At all. Just general thought patterns of self-deprecation. And learning and taking the learnings from the thought patterns of addiction to understand the thought patterns of self-deprecation.
I see. And I think you mentioned you saw that when you were basically chatting with Gemini, and you were discovering, well, you're walking yourself through the whole thought process you had about it, and then you applied it to self-deprecation. I see.
Yeah, which is not part of addiction, but maybe it is. Who knows?
That's interesting. That's interesting because there is definitely that one. There's definitely something around there of. Sometimes we do things that are not connected with each other, and that's when you have an idea about the thing you are probably trying to fix when you're doing something completely unrelated. Like when you have, I don't know, it was 4 a.m. this morning, and I couldn't sleep. I woke up, I couldn't go back to sleep, and I had a thought on how to fix something at work. And I was like, okay, let's go try it. But then again, in the moment I wasn't thinking, I was trying to go to sleep. So probably, yeah. So like a bit unconventional, a bit not related, but yeah. Most of the ideas you have. So for example, let me know if we can't talk about it. I'm not entirely sure. But the skill radar, for example, that was a great idea you had. Explain the idea you had, because I think that was a good idea. And how did you come up with that? Because that was a great idea, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, so...
Because we're looking at idea generation before we go to validation and selection.
Yeah. So how I came up with that idea was probably not the way that you should come up with ideas in business. It's kind of where me and, let's say, school of thought kind of differ, because
And sorry to interrupt, let me stop you right there. You're gonna go over and explain that. What's the idea first?
sorry, the idea. Yes, thank you. Okay, so, well, it's not. It wasn't really an idea. It was. Um, how about I just say what I built?
Go for
And
it.
then,
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
much
Yeah,
easier.
okay. So I built a tool using a Gemini API that would take in your kind of, copy and paste your CV in there, copy and paste your kind of team strategy, your product strategy, your vision for yourself in the next 5 years, and what excites you. You put all that in, and then the idea was that Gemini would take all that and go search the internet for job roles that kind of align with the themes that are extracted from all that information. And as it was looking at the job roles, it would identify the kind of key skills, hard and soft skills that were needed for jobs within that kind of theme that it was able to pull out, and then you were able to kind of grade yourself on a very kind of basic rubric of where you were for X amount of skills. And it had like a real janky share with your friends and get them to grade you, and uh, and then you could select three kind of skills to work on, and then it would go search, what people would expect at the level that you think you're at, and what people would expect at the kind of expert level, and give you learning resources in order to improve in those areas. I started to play around with an idea to help people build their kind of growth plan using the Grow framework, because I've used it before myself and I found it
What's the growth framework?
um, uh, goal, reality, options, will. I think will is more like, yeah, so what are you going to do, kind of thing.
Okay.
So you define all those things, like what it is you're trying to do, what the current state is, what are your options in order to get to what you're trying to do, and what are you actually going to do. And I actually used that framework to transition from video production to product design. The CTO of the company I was working for asked me to do that before he was like kind of willing to commit to me doing that, basically.
Design successfully. You are a product designer,
Yes, yes.
so it works. Okay, so we know what the idea is. We know the framework it's based on, Grow.
Well, that growth thing was very much like let's just help tailor the goal, but it was kind of like a secondary feature, let's call it.
What I liked about the idea, even when you talk about it now, is the fact that I personally don't know anything on the internet. There might be, I don't know, I haven't looked. But what I like about it is the fact that it matches, because you say it right now, it matches you up with the available skills in the market right now, and it's a good use case. I was talking with a common friend of ours, Wasim, and he had a similar idea, not in this space, but a similar idea where AI, well, I don't remember if it was AI, but you get matched up with people around your business around you based on some needs. And in this case, you've got everything's based on the skills and what you sort of want to do, 5-year plan, goal. And that's why it's always interesting, because you see all these companies right now, for example, any sort of music generation AI, it allows you to you give them a prompt and they generate music for you. So it's sort of like that. I think that would be really cool. So talk to me about how you came up with the idea, because you said it was a bit weird how you came up with it.
Yeah. So how I came up with it was
This is where you find out you're looking for a new job, actually.
no. So how I came up with it, the design team said that we were going to kind of just look at our skill sets and kind of help each other figure out where to put our training budget and all that kind of stuff, right? And one of us showed off a skills radar template that they found on Figma. And so I was playing around with that, and I was like, reading the descriptions of the skills and stuff. I was just like, yeah, but it's not really what I want to do. Like the skills that are already there are not really what I want to do, and I don't really know what I want to do per se, and or like how to grow in this company or in my career. I'm not entirely sure. Um, but so then I was like, well, I mean, like I was already playing around with Gemini Studio, and like it was just incredible how quickly you could just spin something up and link that in with like a Gemini API, right? So so the idea was just quite a simple one. Like I'm going to give you my career credentials, and you're going to decide what skills are useful given that kind of credentials that you've been given, based off of job postings, because job postings for those careers obviously have a list of responsibilities and skills. So I was like, yeah, okay, fine. Like all the information that I need about what I need to do in order to progress in whatever career that I want to progress in is theoretically all in job posts. So, and it sounds like a very clear kind of idea, but in my head it wasn't. It was like a janky little prompt that I gave the thing, gave Gemini. We fleshed it out a little bit. We made it into a PRD, which obviously was full of garbage.
PRD?
A product requirement document.
Okay.
But really, it was just like I visualized a few interactions in my head, based off of the skills radar that was on Figma. And I just wanted the skill radar thing to begin with to be more aligned with me and my thing. And then once you have something kind of in front of you, you can kind of, it's a lot easier to then critique it and be like, well, no, that's crap. That interaction is shit. Like let's look at this a bit more. It comes back with a bunch of stuff, and you're like, well, yeah, you've just taken all the stuff that I've just said on my CV and just regurgitated it to me. That's no good. And so then you start to refine the actual mechanisms on how the AI is actually going to. So it starts off as this kind of vague, kind of, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, and then you kind of refine it from there. But most of those wouldn't it be cool ifs I've always found are not actually that cool once you like see it in action.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the episode, I said, let's look at generation, selection, validation, and execution. Let's use this idea as a case study and move over to, say in this case, you've selected the idea. Let's look at validation. So we've both read The Lean Startup, right?
Yes. I've listened.
You've listened
to The Lean Startup.
Something really cool I found about when I was reading the book, there were two things mainly. One of them was validated learning. And we talked about it beforehand as well. Learning is a very interesting word because people like to say, if we fail, we're going to learn and do better. But you can't take failings to the bank. You can't go to the bank and say, well, I failed, but I've learned this. Can you give me £5,000? They're not going to do it. You can't do shit with it. And the book sort of talks about what validated learning, what it means is you have to learn, you have to run a project, run an experiment. It will fail. Look at what you failed at. Take those things you failed at and measure them against, are they actually needed, and then nicely improve those, use those failings specifically and integrate them into the next experiment. And that's one thing I found really interesting. And the second thing was, when we look at an idea to validate it, we need to look at, what's it called, the value hypothesis and growth hypothesis. The value hypothesis looks at, is it actually idea valuable to someone? And the second thing, when it comes to growth, how will we grow this? How will we grow this idea in terms of marketing? How will we get to more customers? How will we get to more people? So let's use this idea of yours with the skill radar, and sort of like look at how we validate it. Have you talked to me about who you've talked with about the idea itself? Because I know you've mentioned it, and I know some people might have been interested.
I mean, I've only talked to people internally about it. If I was to focus on it, I would kind of do it differently. The interface itself was, or the user journey was all wrong in it, like completely all wrong. So I'd kind of scrap it and kind of start again. I mean, but the overall idea of it, yeah, I mean, it would work with it would work. But I mean, when it comes to validation, it's like, well, what are we actually validating for? Like, if it's an internal tool, then the validation would need to be the benefit of using it. And I mean, I'm the only one that has access to it, and I haven't even used it. Right?
You haven't even used it.
Yeah. So right there, I'd say that I validated it. That it's but maybe it's just the access, or maybe it is because of the way that it's presented and how it works. That it's just kind of, it's not intuitive. There's a certain level of stickiness that needs to be involved with software, and you really need to be able to find the value in using it. But really, the issue is that I haven't not used it and used something else to kind of map out my skills or kind of plan how I'm going to like grow. I just haven't done it at all, right?
Okay.
So it's not the product itself may be great for someone that is doing that, but how many people within a working day are actually thinking, well, how am I going? Like, I'm gonna sit down and think about, now they're spilling a fucking load of plates, and then at the end of the day, they're not gonna. I mean, I don't. I don't leave and then go like, right, now I'm gonna go think about how I'm gonna grow inside the company. Like,
Okay.
So I mean, maybe that's just me. But
It does. I say let's try run that idea through a scenario. It doesn't have to be this idea. If you've got any, because I think you've said, between you and I think you've said most of the ideas you've run with and experimented with, you've done them for yourself because they were applying in your own life. So in that case, the validation was mainly on you.
yeah, so a lot of the stuff that I've built has all been around optimizing repetitive tasks internally. I obviously design for external software kind of thing, but when I'm building, like, designing and building, not just designing, but like proper building stuff. And my idea is not like kind of designing with a team and stuff. They've all been kind of for internal tooling. Like, for example, I built a thing for us to build tables in Figma faster, because to do it normally would be get cell, change text, get cell, and like you build up your table like that, and I'm like, oh, it's fucking shit. So now we've got a tool I can put in the prompt thing. I want a 5-column, 6 rows, the general customer data thing. I want action buttons on the side, a select on the other side, and the status thing. Generate, bam, table. Nice, easy. you know, and I've saved someone 30 minutes of their time, you know. And when I need to make a table, I'll use that. When anyone needs to make a table, they'll use that. Now, obviously, the table, like the creation of a table, is not the biggest bang for our buck, right? Because we don't make tables like every day. Like if we were making tables like every day, then that would be like, fuck me, the value in that is good. But we don't. It just so happens that maybe there'll be a table within a design every kind of 2 sprints or something. You might have to use a table. So, and this is where I kind of differ from, you know, probably what you should, like, if you're going to take lean startup by heart, is that I'm a human. I'm not a business robot, right? So when I think of like a cool thing to do, I'll just fucking do it because the value is that it's cool and I want to see how cool it is, right? But in business, it's slightly different, right? Because you can't just like waste all your time like trying cool shit. Like you need some kind of strategy in order to kind of, like you said, make the learning valuable, you know? So you can at least move towards getting something to the bank.
I guess when you were talking, you were saying about tables. You saved someone 30 minutes, hopefully, when you were using that. Have you? And you've kind of like sort of say like a couple of times now. You're mainly focusing like what I'm hearing is that all the ideas you've had, they are sort of like aimed at improving efficiency.
Yeah.
Have you publicized any of those?
Publicized?
As in releasing to the world?
Yeah, I like before I worked at Maiden, again tables, like fucking tables, man. I had to build a lot of tables for my previous job. Because I was making educational, master level business learning content. So we'd film everyone, and then they had graphics, and obviously because we were doing business masters, you know, a lot of tables, fucking, you know, like, oh, look at this fucking P&L and balance sheets and all this kind of stuff. And it would just take an age to make a table that wasn't just a screenshot of a dog shit Excel. What I was trying to do was create a system so that we could get freelance editors to come in, and they would be able to create visuals and videos, but have the same branded feel as all the other videos. So I created a lot of little tools for us to do that and shared some of those scripts online so other people could use them to just make tables for themselves. So I made like a table builder for Adobe Illustrator.
And do you know that has been used, or any of them for them?
Yeah, I mean, like they're not like, you know,
Yeah.
crazy use, but yeah, people have been like, yeah, this is so useful. Like, I've gotten comments because I made a little video and put it online and been like, hey, if you need something, like I built this kind of thing. Some of the things I haven't shared, they're kind of like they're not packaged or anything like that. I built this really cool thing. It was the first thing I've ever built in code. Was the way that we would edit video, because like we were creating about 50 videos per course, right?
Yeah.
And we would do like 2 to 3 days of filming all the videos. We had all the scripts. They'd just go straight down the camera, green screen, film all the videos, get all the videos, and then be like, right, now we've got to edit them. So we'd have, and the videos were broken down to modules. So each module within the course would be there, and there'd be about 10 videos per module or something like that, right? And each module we'd put into a timeline. And so you'd have like, you know, a lot of video across this thing. And so I built this thing that would mean that you could edit all of these videos within this one timeline. And then this thing would just be like, all right, well, that's one video. I'm going to export that. I'm going to export that. I'm going to export that. And this would normally take, like, that end process of exporting would normally take about, again, an hour, half an hour of just kind of really crappy work, You know, just like, ugh, 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 you know. And that's the kind of stuff that I really hate. And, you know, I see it with other people, just like, you know, they're just doing these manual things over and over and over again, because no one's really thought about the fact that it needs to be done, or the process has just kind of been built in that kind of way. But the general process itself of having everything in one timeline saved time, plus this tool that I made saved even more time, and it just became this really nice process. And but again, it was just kind of like, oh, you can do that with code? Oh, okay, well, why don't we just, you know, once you understand the possibilities of something and you understand the problem, it becomes really easy to be like, oh, maybe we should just kind of try this, kind of try that kind of thing. But again, it's that thing of value, right? Because like, how valuable is that? And how long did it take me to do it? Did it take me longer than it would ever take anyone in the next 5 years to do what I just automated? You know?
But then that's the thing, right? Because again, the theme that keeps coming up for you at this point is you saving yourself time, and by doing that, you sometimes release that into the world, and that saves others people's time. So you sort of like validate it that way. But to answer your question, the difference between you and me is that you had the idea, I didn't, but you went through with it. You were curious enough to write the code or to think more about the idea and then do it. And not only that, you would go a step further and you say, let me post a video on it somewhere. Maybe someone else could use it. So there's some barriers there that could be broken into, but not that many people do it. Not many people put themselves out there.
Yeah, no, I do know what you mean. So I can't remember when this happened. Actually, I think I can remember when this happened. About 25 years old, I think I started realizing that I could think and like do things, and it really does feel to me that prior to being 25, I was kind of on kind of sleep, fuck, eat, repeat autopilot. Like I don't really remember what the hell I did, thought, or was trying to do up until about the age of 25. It all just seems like this kind of, you know, there's a leaf on a stream, right? Um, it has no direction. It's just going with the fucking water, right? And I really do feel like that's what I like. Whatever my fucking drive was, you know, just animalistic or environmental, and I was just kind of. Anyway, about 25, I read the epilogue of Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra. And it's it's like super flowery language, like you know, kind of King James Bible kind of style. But in general, it got me into kind of Nietzsche's philosophy to a certain extent, and this idea that creation kind of helps man or helps create drive, and you know, that being articulated to me at about that time kind of resonated.
Say it again. Men's creation.
Well, just like creation helps like drive, and,
Yeah.
and having like a lofty goal that you're probably never going to achieve, something like greater than yourself, also kind of helps that drive. And those kind of like, but the creation one kind of really stuck with me because, you know, I looked back at my younger years, and the things that I was most proud of were the things that I created. You know, by the time I was 25, I had, you know, self-recorded and self-written, must have been like 2 or 3 albums or something like that, and and one kind of little art book of poems, and you know, no one's ever going to see them. No one's ever going to listen to them, even though they are available to
I can put them up. I'll put them up.
Crocodile Scissor Cut.
It's gonna be on the screen. I'm gonna play at some point.
But for me, the satisfaction was in the creation itself. And so yeah, I've kind of just always gone with that now, because I just don't feel fulfilled in my life if I'm not creating something. So when you say that some people have the idea and don't do it, I do. It's because I'm trying to not be depressed, basically. And I found that the best way for me not to be depressed is to create stuff. The issue with that is that if that is the value, then it ends at creation, not distribution.
If creation is the value, then it ends the distribution.
Well, if the value is that, like, I feel good when I create something, and it ends there, then all I need to do is create. I can just keep creating stuff and just leaving it in my shed, or in the attic.
So you're happy just for it to be created and maybe just sit with it.
Well, I mean, yes, this is where me and business fundamentally kind of part ways. Like, I love these books, and I love operation like strategic operations and stuff, like the way that like efficiencies are gained and stuff. But the money creation side of it, that, like, I understand that we want to be efficient so we can make more money, but like, me as a human, I've always found it really hard to what's the word? What is the word? I've always found it hard to accept that capitalism and innovation is really always driven by profit, and everything ultimately ends with profit and not the thing itself. Like, there are so many things that have been created that just don't go anywhere because you can't monetize it, or you like, not enough people are buying it, so it just kind of dies out, or there's no market for that, or we can't figure out how to sell that. So and yeah, it's just kind of disappointing that.
I sort of disagree with that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. I think I disagree just because it comes down, at least personally, it comes down to why you want to do it. I'm going to give you a good example here.
Sorry, what is it that you disagree with first?
The fact that you're tying profits with capitalism, and that's the end goal.
Okay. No, yeah, okay. Well, I'm okay.
Because what I'm hearing is you're creating because you like creating.
Mm-hmm.
But if you attach something like, say, profits to it, and profits come from you releasing the work and then working some more to improve the work, so therefore gaining efficiencies, and therefore people wanting to use the product or service, which in the end will get you the profits because you can then monetize it, then that kind of like that you don't want to do it anymore because it kind of like stops.
No, I don't say I don't want to do it anymore. But what I'm saying is that, I can create all these things.
Yeah.
But my feeling is that because there's no evidence of profit from the creations,
Yeah.
they are ultimately not valuable.
And that's where I think just because I think if you attach the profits to it, then you can sort of like infer if an idea is valuable or not. right?
Sorry.
If you attach profits to, say, an idea you have, and you think, well, if people don't use this, then the idea won't have traction to it. Then you sort of like start thinking, well, this idea is not good enough, so I'm going to ditch it, even though you enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
So why? Yeah, I think I disagree with that, just because if you're doing it for some reasons, then those reasons should be enough. Obviously, if you follow through with it and your goal is to make money off of it, then that's one way of doing it. But there's other ways of doing it. You can just release, just like take your album. You release the album because you wanted to release an album. You wanted to create something, and it just so happened that you released it in the world. Nothing's happened with it. Like, no, you have got access to the analytics to see how many people have listened to it, but that doesn't necessarily does it impact you if you're gonna create another album or not?
No.
No.
Kids will impact that.
In fact, this time. But I think it's up to you what you sort of like attached to it.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, but like, if you think about the way that they talk about things in lean startup, or just in general, agile methodologies of creation kind of thing, it's all based around, is it worth my time and effort going into this and putting in the time, all based on value to the customer, because if it's value to the customer or the user, then that equates to profit for me, right? So when you think about any kind of ideation process and validation process that you read about in books, it's all based around the need to make dollar, right? So, but when you're talking about just as a human, how do you come up with ideas and follow through on things and create things? We don't need to worry about dollar then, and the process can be a bit more, So I suppose the reason why I brought that up was because, like, what is it that we're talking about? Because I can talk for ages on just like human creativity and creating things and coming up with ideas and creating things, and the great opportunity that is now where you can create digital tools without really any kind of knowledge of coding for yourself. But or are we talking about how to make money? And because if we're talking about how to make money, I think it's clear that none of my creations have made any money. That's not entirely true, but
No, but they've definitely created. I think you've proved two things. At least to me. Number one, you're someone who likes to create, and we need more.
I do create. I'm not just an ideas man, which was a business card that I had when I was 16. Ben Mizrany, ideas man, which is nice that I can say, like, oh, I don't just come up with ideas. I actually, like, make prototypes.
Yeah.
At least.
I think, two things about you. That, like, you come up with ideas, and then you start executing the ones you like. And when you execute them, you prove that they are successful, because in most of them you gain some sort of efficiencies without thinking about the profit or like anything.
Yeah.
You prove that you can provide that value. Whatever that value ends up happening with in the end doesn't matter. But I think that's why I respect about you. That's what I like about you. And every time we see each other in the office and you say, "Oh, I've got this cool idea," it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my biggest takeaway from Lean Startup was this idea of the value in learning cheap and fast.
Yeah.
And just kind of, what is the easiest, quickest thing I can do to kind of understand this space more. And I think I have taken that away from it and kind of put that into my work. So a lot of the stuff that I do is quite, duct tape, let's try it. And then, you know, once you validate, then you can kind of, all right, let's remove the duct tape and put in some fucking screws, you know?
Yeah, and that's how you build something, whether for yourself or for the world, or just because you want to do it. That's how you do it. Ben, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Final question. How should I title this episode?
If you ever watched Welcome to the NHK,
No.
it's an anime or a manga as well of a social recluse in Japan. He doesn't like going out, and this girl that lives on top of the hill that can see down to his window obviously notices that he never leaves his house, and goes and tries to help him kind of reintegrate into the world. And he meets her in a park, and she asks him what he does, and he doesn't really do anything, but he's like I'm a creator. So that was my thought for the.
I'm a creator.
I'm a creator.
Nice. I'll that's why I will title it. And we'll do a part 2 because I want to talk more with you about ideas and for the world and for yourself, just because it's interesting, and you're interesting. Ben, thank you again. Before you go, I've got something for you. You might have seen it already. This is the best chocolate bar you'll ever have in your life, hopefully.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I used to, obviously as a kid,
Do you want me to eat it now?
you can do whatever you want. You can eat it now, you can eat it later, you can do whatever you want.
You want the reaction shot?
You're the second person who's done it on camera. So when I was a kid, before you take the first bite, when I was a kid, I used to think, well, every chocolate bar I had ever had never had enough chocolate. High school, someone gave me this chocolate bar, and this chocolate bar has got enough chocolate in it. Take the first bite, and let me know what you think. You will need water after it. It's got really dark chocolate, very nice. Loads of layers.
Yeah, I've got that. Yeah. What I like about it is that it's dark chocolate. I fucking hate milk chocolate. Get in the bin. Like, I'm like, okay, 100% cocoa is too much. Too much.
Yeah.
But like 80, 70%,
Sweet spot.
it's good, man. It's good.
Yeah, nice. The brand itself, this was the first thing that they released back in Romania. And then a while after, they released the milk chocolate one as well. My dad likes the milk chocolate. I'm like, the dark chocolate is much better. Ben, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.